Oh, Lisa? Okay. If Betty's not here, she'll never hear the end of it. That's fine. I'm not scared of Betty. I can outrun her. They make this beverage called coffee. Yeah. I was having a little bit of VTAC this morning, so I figured I'd put away the Monster and get regular coffee. Yeah. Hey, Mom. I can't push it over anymore. It's too wavy. And so I get like this, and then it curls back onto itself and goes straight up. So went to the Ace Hardware last week, and I had to buy some fittings to install the propane line into the gas fireplace. It's not ventilated. It's a non-ventilated gas fireplace insert. And so I turned it on. I'm like, that's gas. And it wouldn't light. So I'm like, let me get a lighter, see what happens. Brand new house. And I was like, where's the pilot light? I'm like, I don't see it. And so I was like, oh, there, it's in the front. Found it. So it's a non-ventilated gas insert. So the solution for what you do for that is you crack a window. So I'm like, yeah, you let all the cold air in. You're lighting a gas. You have a gas fireplace, like a glorified gas grill, propane grill in your living room. The solution to get the gas smell out because it's not ventilated is to crack a window. Like, well, that's extra money. It's an optional part according to the installation guide. Who needs to ventilate CO2 in your house with your children? I mean, come on. All right, so anyway, long story short, it's still going to be a long story. Went to Ace Hardware to go a part, and I didn't realize until like 3 o'clock that afternoon my hair was wavy and it stuck straight up. So here I am talking about fittings and brass, and my hair is, the guy looks like I'm crazy. So anyway, I can't do the pushover anymore. Yeah, I could wear a cap. Okay, here we go. Did you know the children are learning about Judges as well? It's a weird coincidence. I began Judges 1 week before the kids got Judges, and also 1 week before we had it on Loafer's class for all the parents to learn the same material the kids are learning, and I'm just 1 week ahead of all of them. What are the odds? I blame Rob. Rob suggested it a year ago. It's all Rob's fault. Okay. I can't blame Lisa, right? But I can blame Rob. So, okay. Judges chapter 8, we're talking about this guy. And this particular guy had some doubt about himself, right? Gideon, or Jerubbaal, if you will. He began his story as a young boy threshing wheat in a wine press to keep it hidden from the Midianites. God appeared to him in the form of the angel of the Lord. Right? We talked about that in ad nauseum for some people. And then we described him by night being able to tear down the altar to Baal and Ashtoreth in the city town where he lived. They discovered it was him. His father stood up for him, and then he was called to go and defeat the Midianites in conquest. But God had the stipulation, if you go down with all the forces that you've got, you're going to think that you're the big bad ones because of how strong you guys are. You're going to forget that I was the one that gave you the victory. So, through the process of elimination, we got Gideon and 300 men going around the encampment of the Midianites. They blew a horn, they smashed a clay pot, and they had fire in their hands. Everybody down below freaked out, killed each other. They were pursuing them as they were fleeing, and they got the bad guys. They got the two princes, right? Orb and Zeb. If you're looking for children for your own child, if you were looking for a new name, Oreb and Zeb are open if you want those. Okay, so chapter 8. They've been pursued, they beat the Midianites, and then you'd think this would be a great accomplishment, that we have 300 men went up against an entire army, and the 300 won because they all killed each other at a confusion. So you'd imagine, now that the princes are gone, that the Israelites would have a great cause of celebration. But in chapter 8 of the book of Judges, we find this. The men of Ephraim said to him, "Why have you done this to us, not calling us when you went to fight against the Midianites?" And they argued with him violently. So what's going on here? Yeah. If they would have lost the battle, Ephraim would have been like, hey, we dodged one here. But they won with 300 people. So Ephraim is now saying, listen, we wanted to be a part of this too. But you didn't include us in your plan for battle against the enemy of the Midianites. So here is this, verse 2. He, Gideon, said to them, "What have I done now compared to you? Is not the gleaning of Ephraim better than the grape harvest of Abiezer? God handed over to you Oreb and Zeb, the two princes of Midian. What was I able to do compared to you?" When he said this, their anger against him subsided. So what's verse 2 and 3 mean? How would you rephrase that to make it make sense?
It sounds like they were very prideful,
Mm-hmm.
so they felt like they weren't going to get any of the glory of having beaten the Midianites. And he says, "Look what you've done." So he butters them up.
Yeah.
What he's done to appease them.
Yeah.
He's telling them they're, oh, sorry.
Okay. That's okay.
And he's telling them their leftovers in the field
Uh-huh.
is better than their actual harvest
Yeah.
where he's from. So he's like, you've already got this, it's better than what we got.
What are you mad about? Like, your harvest is great. We've been trying to hide our wheat, and you guys are doing great. And then you killed the princes that we were trying to track down. Like, what are you lacking from this situation? He's being a good elder. He is looking at the people that are complaining all the time, and he's like, listen, everything's okay. Everything's all right. You guys got what you need. You got the glory. You got the reputation. Everything's fine. Why are you so mad? And calmed him down. I say elder, I meant judge. Because elders never look at people that are complaining and just try to say, you know what, everything's going to be all right. Right? They would never do that. Okay, verse 4. That's the end of that. You have the Ephraimites who are appeased because they got upset that they weren't included in the warfare. And they said, listen, not a lot of people were. There's 300 of us. You guys have a great harvest. Not a big deal. You got the princes. Thank you so much for that. And then we move on. Verse 4. Gideon and the 300 men came across the Jordan and crossed it. They were exhausted but still in pursuit. He said to the men of Succoth, please give us some loaves of bread to the troops under my command because they're exhausted. For I am pursuing Zebah and Zalmunna, the kings of Midian. The princes have been gotten, right? They're still pursuing the kings, the leaders. But the princes of Succoth asked, so let's pause right here, just for your own biblical literacy. When you're reading it on your own, whenever you come into the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, and you read the word princes, how do you think of that in your mind? What's that?
Leaders.
Yeah, leaders. Do you have the connotation, though, that they're like the sons of the king? Is that in your mind at all? A prince?
No.
Prince Charming?
No.
Arabian Nights? Arabian Days, right? None of that. So in my mind, anyway, as a new convert, when I would read princes, I'm like, okay, so they're the son of a king. Like, what's going on here? It just simply means like a governor, right? In our English, you would say someone who is in charge politically over a local population. So they're a leader, a governor, a mayor, if you will, of these little clan tribes that are around. So if that doesn't bother you and you know what that means, great. But for me, I needed a little bit of help with that when I was reading out my Robbie, what in the world is this prince talk? Prince who? Like, who is this prince guy? And so that helped me out a lot. So, cool. But the princes, leaders of Succoth asked, are Zebah and Zalmunna now in your hands that we should give bread to your army? Well, okay, how do you read that?
They have no faith. They think that Zebah and Zalmunna are going to escape, and they're going to come back and just kill Gideon and his 300 troops.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Because it's too small an army, and they're not trusting God, and they would rather be on good terms with Zebah and Zalmunna than be on good terms with Gideon.
That's how I read it too. They're like, hey, listen, man, are you close? Do you have them already? No? Well, then, we don't want to waste our bread giving it to you, and then you get killed by the leaders. Right? Okay, so verse 7, Gideon replied, very well, when the Lord has handed Zebah and Zalmunna over to me, I will tear your flesh with thorns and briars from the wilderness. He didn't take it well that he was insulted by the people that would not give them food, right? Verse 8, he went from there to Penuel and asked the same thing from them. The men of Penuel asked just as the men of Succoth had answered. So he also told the men of Penuel, when I return safely, I will tear down this tower. They seem to like the tower. He's going to tear it down. So what we see happening here is a foreshadow of what will happen towards the end of Gideon's life. By the way, if you don't know the story already, Gideon starts out, young man, so afraid to go against his own town that he had to do this thing by night, tear down the altars. He's now got more confidence to go before God and said, hey, you know what, the sheep seems to be dry. Can you make it wet by the morning? He does that. Okay, so don't be mad at God, but can you make the sheep dry and everything else wet? God does that. He's getting more and more confident because God's promises are coming true. Now we're starting to see a little bit of hint that if you're going against Gideon, you're going against God. And that very well may be true at this point in time, meaning that Gideon is doing what God has commanded him to do. Go and defeat the Midianites, got the princes, Orb and Zeb. Now we're going after the kings to kind of quash them. He's doing what God wants. So his condemnation seems to be in line with Yahweh's condemnation, right? Everybody tracking that so far? Betty, you okay? You're better? Talking to me at 7 o'clock in the morning made you feel better?
She talked to me at 7.
She called you? Well, you called the real person to call at 7 o'clock in the morning.
The person knows me.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I've got a title here according to the eldership.
And
Yeah, I got a title of office manager. Office manager. Is that right, Todd? Am I the office manager?
Supposedly.
Yeah, okay. So I was talking to your son, Mac, 2 weeks ago. We had all the Bibles that we had. We sent a request that if you want a new CSB Bible, it's $25. Give us your name, I'll buy them for you. You can get them on Sunday morning, right? We still have those, by the way. So if you signed up to get one, we have it waiting for you. But I talked to Mac Oppie and I said, listen, we got this order of Bibles. People are paying in the contribution for the Bibles to kind of pay us back for that. So if you see that on a check or on an envelope, just set it aside. And he's like, well, I'll make sure that Faye knows. And I go, well, I mean, I'm the office manager. And he goes like, sure you are. Sure you are. I'll let Faye, like, that's all that matters. As long as Faye knows, everything will get done, right? So, yeah, call the office manager about what's going on, and she'll let you know. Okay, so back on track. Gideon seems to get a little prideful here. He was kind of shy at first and unsure at first. Now he's kind of getting, he's getting some gruff in his voice, and he's starting to say, listen, if you don't take care of me and my troops, you're not taking care of God. which is a dangerous kind of place to be if God's not really with you, right? So that's good. Go ahead.
The first one, he said, very well, when the Lord has handed Ziba and Zalmunna over to me.
Uh-huh.
The second time, he says, when I return, I will tear down this tower. I noticed that when you were reading about
Uh-huh.
it. He left God out.
It's kind of a foreshadow. So the book of Judges, right? The word judge, we think of like in a black robe, powdery wig for some reason, and a gavel in their hand. The word judge literally means redeemer or savior, right? So every time we see a judge raised up, it's not someone who's like giving a verdict, although that kind of comes into play. It's more along the lines of God raising up a redeemer or a savior. So it's kind of like a mini Moses, right? This is kind of what this is. God's raising up a mini Moses to kind of do what he needs to be done in the land of Israel, but not for like ever, just for a little bit of time, right? And so every time we see a judge pop up, they're really imperfect people. They're really imperfect. It's not a Moses, because Moses is like a whole other level in my mind. These judges are raised up, and they've got something wrong with them every time. None of them are perfect. And so this one, we kind of see a little bit of Gideon here. You get that pride kind of coming into play. Okay, verse 10. Now Ziba and Zalmunna were in Karkor, because, I mean, spoiler alert, the person that's writing this knew of their location before it was called that, so he's kind of inserting it back into the text for us to kind of know what the play-by-play is, right? And with them was their army of about 15,000 men, who were all those left in the entire army of the people of the east. So Gideon's got how many troops? 300. And our kings have 15,000 men. So you can kind of see where the two cities were coming from. They're like, look, I mean, you want bread to eat, that's all well and good, but I mean, what are you going to do against 15,000 people? I mean, okay. Well, I mean, you know, the odds aren't in their favor. Okay, let's keep reading. Those who had been killed were 120,000 armed men. So the bulk of the army is gone, but still a formidable number are with the kings. Gideon traveled on the caravan route east of Nobah and Jogbehah and attacked their army while the army felt secure. Ziba and Zalmunna fled, and he pursued them. He captured these two kings of Midian and routed the entire army. So you cut off the head of the snake here. Hopefully the body dies. Gideon, son of Joash, returned from the battle by the ascent of Heres. He captured a youth from the men of Succoth and interrogated him. So who's Succoth again? The first one is like, I mean, do you have the kings? You don't? All right. So now he's kidnapping a youth, which is always great for a man of God to do. Again, we're kind of going here. The youth wrote down for him the names of 77 leaders and elders of Succoth. He went to the men of Succoth and said, here are Ziba and Zalmunna. You taunted me about them, saying, are Ziba and Zalmunna now in your power that we should give bread to your exhausted men? So he took the elders of the city, he took some thorns and briars from the wilderness, and he disciplined the men of Succoth with them. CSB. Great. He also, by the way, tore down the tower of Penuel and killed the men of the city. All right. How do you want to look at this?
Did he kill the men? He didn't kill the men of Succoth. He just killed the men of Penuel.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you only kill half a city, it's not as bad as killing two cities, right?
No, I mean, it was two different places.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with you. I'm just saying, how do you want to look at this? I mean, is this God's vindication coming back to teach them a lesson? If God is with Gideon and take care of Gideon? Or is that a bit too much?
Well, it's very different from his response to the other people who were angry with him earlier.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, this is not tactful at all.
It seems not, right? This reminds me of a story. about a guy named David. And David was fleeing for his life with his most trusted military advisors and friends. And he's out in the middle of nowhere, and he is asking this one guy who doesn't seem very wise, very smart, hey, will you give us some bread, give us some food, give us some water? We were out here on the run. We're righteous people. And the guy writes back and says, I don't know who you are. Get out of here. And so David straps on Goliath's sword, is about to go up there and just massacre the entire city. And then a beautiful lady comes out and says, hey, listen, my husband ain't that smart. Here's some food. Please don't kill us all. And he goes, hey, thank you for that. I was going to go kill you all. I'm not going to do that anymore. God sent you to me. And then he married her when her husband died. As you do, I suppose. Worms eating him? Is that right?
No, he became as a stone. I think God gave him a stroke.
Oh, okay, so he got stroked out. And then got remarried. Technical term, right? Okay, verse 18. He asked Zebah and Zalmunna, the kings, what kind of men did you kill at Tabor? He says, they were like you, they said. Each resembled the son of a king. I mean, they were kings for a reason, right? It's like, what kind of men did you kill in Tabor, by the way? Like, they looked just like you. They were handsome, they were tall, they were from royalty. I mean, just like you. I mean, that's great. Verse 19, he said, they're my brothers, the sons of my mother. As the Lord Yahweh lives, if you had let them live, I would not kill you. Now, the end verse is also true. He said to Jether, his firstborn, get up, kill him. The youth did not draw his sword, for he was afraid because he was still a youth. Let me just pause right there and insert a little bit of something that's not in the text. It seems like when you read this, that maturity is a thing the Bible recognizes. Right? And there's no, immediately condemnation because the guy was afraid because he was so young. He's not a man of war, right? They're not tactical people yet. They're farmers. And he's telling Jether, his firstborn, get up and kill them, execute them. And he goes, I don't know about this. I don't want to do it. So just keep that in mind, that sometimes when you look at the Bible, it can imply some things that I think are important to pick up, and that's one of them. Okay, verse 21. Zebah and Zalmunna said, get up and strike us down yourself, for a man is judged by his strength. Well, I mean, don't have to ask him twice. All right? He took Gideon. So Gideon got up, killed Zebah and Zalmunna, took the crescent ornaments that were on the necks of their camels. So he took a trophy, I suppose, from getting the kings.
Were the crescent ornaments just a sign of authority and stature, or were they religious?
I don't know. You don't think royalty?
I do think it's
You do?
royalty.
I mean, it would be an important thing for him to have to prove that he killed the kings. I mean, you can't carry around somebody's head that long, right? So, I mean, if you have the Mercedes-Benz Crescent from the front of the vehicle, like, hey, that's kind of the thing, right? He has the ornament, the hood ornament. There you go. All right. Now, that's the bulk of it. Here's the rest of it. Verse 22. Then the Israelites said to Gideon, rule over us, you as well as your sons and your grandsons, for you delivered us from the power of Midian. I mean, pretty sweet job opportunity right there, right? He was threshing wheat. All of a sudden, the Son of God comes to, or the angel of the Lord comes to him and says, hey, listen, I need you to go and be the judge for this generation. Go ahead and take care of the altars to Baal and Ashtoreth in your hometown, and we got to defeat the Midianites. Let's do that. Eventually, he builds up the courage and the confidence and the faith to do so. He defeats the big bad guy. I mean, and then the people say, listen, you did such a great job. Why don't you be our king?
But it was God, not him.
God should have been their king. And Gideon's got a great opportunity here. Let's see how Gideon replies to this job offer. Gideon said to them, verse 23, I will not rule over you. Okay, good, great start, great start. And my son will not rule over you. The Lord will rule over you. Oh, okay. Whew. It was close. Then he said to them, let me make a request of you. I'm not going to be your king, but I've got a favor to ask. Here's the favor. Everyone give me an earring from his plunder. This is not for his own personal accoutrement, right? He's asking for the gold. Now, the enemy had gold earrings because they were Ishmaelites, obviously, of course. I mean, I don't know.
Cultural thing, probably.
When you look at the Bible like this and you okay, and we're keeping in mind that this is not written to us per se, right? This is not written to a 21st century American on this part of the world. This was written to people who lived in that time frame, in that time period, most likely written probably by Samuel, right? He's like recalling the events of the judges. And so they would have known in that place of the world at that time period, well, they were Ishmaelites. Of course they had gold earrings. Don't you know that? But for us, we're like, I guess that's true because, this is not for us. Which is important for the New Testament too, by the way. Okay, verse 25. They said, sure. So let me read it for actual. Okay, we agreed to give them. So they spread out a cloak. Everyone threw an earring from his plunder on it. The weight of the gold earrings he requested was 43 pounds of gold. In addition to the crescent ornaments and ear pendants, the purple garments on the kings of Midian, and the chains on the necks of their camels. Okay. Now, this is the Christian Standard Bible, the CSB. We've not taught from this book, this version, this translation of the Bible before. One thing that I will mention I really like about the CSB is it's written in a way that's very understandable to our modern vernacular. So, for example, in the King James, New King James, ESV, you would have like shekels mentioned in there, right? You wouldn't have 43 pounds. What they do is they just give you the exact common weight for us. I mean, the footnotes there for other translations, that's fine, but to me it's a whole lot easier to kind of keep track of what we're looking at for that. So 43 pounds in gold, plus all the extra stuff. So what does Gideon do? Well, I'm not sure what his intentions were, but here's what happened. Verse 27, Gideon made an ephod from all this and put it in Ophrah, his hometown. We'll pause right there. All right. Who's familiar with what an ephod is? Raise your hand if you know what an ephod is. Okay, what's an ephod?
That's the front covering that the priest had with all the stones of all the tribes of Israel whenever he set it up.
Right. So at this time, there's no temple yet, because Solomon's not really a guy yet. So you have the tabernacle. And the high priest was commanded by God to make an ephod, which would have been a thing. It's kind of like it's like a plate carrier. It's not. It's a chest piece that you'd wear. And for the one of Israel, you had 12 different types of stones that were valuable to represent the 12 tribes of Israel that came from Egypt into the Promised Land. So he would wear that for the Day of Atonement, and that Day of Atonement only, to kind of represent all the people of Israel before God and the Day of Atonement to atone for their sins. So what's Gideon doing here? Well, he's making his own version of it. I don't think so, because here's what happened. Then all Israel prostituted themselves by worshiping it there, and it became a snare to Gideon and his household. So whatever the intentions, which were not told scripturally, what the intention of Gideon doing that was, it became a snare for the Israelites in that location to worship it as opposed to worshiping Yahweh God through the tabernacle. So the intention is not revealed to us, but the ends of it are. I think this is kind of like a Romans 14 thing. That maybe in Gideon's mind, it was honor, homage, worship going to God, but whatever the case, it became a problem for the people. It might be a stretch to put Romans 14 here, but I think it's something to be said about that. All right. So, verse 28. So Midian was subdued before the Israelites. Okay, thanks God. Thanks Gideon. And they were no longer a threat. The land had peace for 40 years during the days of Gideon. Jerubbabel, by the way, that's Gideon, son of Joash, went back to live at his house, as you do. I mean, that's the Hobbit right there. He got his adventures out of the way, go back home. All right, Gideon had 70 sons. What? His own offspring, since he had many wives. Okay. Let's keep reading, then we'll go back. Verse 31. His concubine, so not his wife, but his concubine, who was in Shechem, also bore him a son. Okay. He named him Abimelech. What does the name Abimelech mean? Anyone have that note? No one has that note? Okay, so when you look at Abimelech, there's a couple of Abimelechs in the Old Testament. One thing to keep in mind here is that we've got a compound Hebrew word. You have Abim, and then you have Melech. What does Melech sound kind of like? Molech. Molech. Who's Molech? Okay, he is an Canaanite god that is kind of like the god of war, a little bit, over certain regions. And historically, through archaeology, we've discovered that Molech was sacrificed newborn infants being burned alive. So that kind of gives you an idea. So you got a guy here called Abimelech. Now, Molech itself is not a bad word. It just means king, because that's how Molech was king that was being worshipped in the Canaanite goddess, god idea. So Abi means son of. So we got a concubine in Shechem bearing a son to Gideon, Jerubbabel, and his name is son of the king. I mean, the job opportunity that Gideon refused because the Lord was king, now he's got a bunch of offspring, and one of them's named the son of the king. Interesting, right? Then Gideon, son of Joash, died at a good old age, which apparently is a biblical thing, and was buried in the tomb of his father, Joash, in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. Okay, all right. Let's go back and talk about, if you want to, verse 30. Anyone have any thoughts on verse 30? Does this bother you at all, or is this just a thing that I'm piping up in my mind for no reason?
So Abimelech is number 71.
Sure. Or he's 70 out of 69. I don't know. It doesn't really matter
But it
biblically.
says 70 sons because he had many wives. So the 70 sons are talking about with the wives. This woman is not his wife.
Yeah.
It's his concubine.
Okay, so he had 70 sons from the wives. Who knows how many he had from the concubines? And how many there were? At least one. Which sets a precedent for Solomon to one-up him a little bit, right? I mean, poor Solomon, the wisest guy in the entire world, didn't act like it. Tell you what.
The 70 sons of
Okay. If it weren't given the caveat of the many wives, I would say more than likely, because in the Hebrew Bible, we talk about the sons. You could mean son as the way we think of like a male offspring. Sometimes the son is talked about as like your grandson as well. Especially in genealogies, that can trip you up a little bit if you're not careful. If you are tracking it person by person, you skip a generation or two along the way. So like the beginning of Matthew and the beginning of Luke, you're going through Joseph, you're going through Mary, right? That's kind of how Matthew and Luke work. And it's not one for one. It's kind of like a generation skipped every now and again to kind of track that back. So good thought, but probably not here. Nor does it really matter for our purposes to examine what's being said here. Okay.
Well, evidently his concubine was not Israeli.
Why do you say that?
Because of what she named her child.
Okay. Okay. Let me rephrase that a little bit. I might have said it the wrong way. So eventually Molech would be worshipped by offering an infant. This is like in between Malachi and Matthew, that becomes a real ritualized thing, okay? So between Malachi and Matthew. Molech, during this time, we don't have the evidence yet that he was a big, like, pantheon player. He wasn't like a major god yet. So just using the Hebrew, Abi, son of, Molech, the king, does not necessarily reference the fact that she worshipped Molech as a god. Because Molech's not been mentioned yet in the text, biblically. We've got Baal, who's been there forever, and you've got Ashtoreth, which there are plural of those for fertility goddess, right? So I'm just saying here, when you look at the word there in our English, Abimelech, you've got a compound word of son of the king is what his name literally means. And eventually, Molech becomes a deity that's worshipped by offering children. Does that make sense? So I'm not saying that because of verse 31, because of the name Abimelech means that she was a pagan. It just means that the name means son of the king, which eventually is distorted into something else towards the first century, son of the king, the God king.
Where is the tabernacle at this time? Wasn't it at Shechem or one?
No, it was in the other place. It sounds very similar. Shiloh. It's in Shiloh.
But there's something about Shechem. I don't know why that name sticks out.
It's a fun one to say.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Anything else about that? You got the age-old question, okay, so why can Gideon have so many wives and that be okay with God? That's a big one, just morally. That's a whole other conversation, but that kind of gets brought up here, right? Why can David have so many wives? Solomon didn't do great with that many wives. So how's all that work? But that's not really mentioned here as a problem theologically, morally, in this text.
Isn't that part of the same reasoning that once Israel come to the promised land, they wanted to be like the other nations. They wanted a king.
Oh, yeah.
They wanted to be like them, and that's part of it, because I think originally God, one woman and one man.
I mean, that was it. When Jesus was asked about that, he goes, well, in the beginning it was not so, about divorce. Like, you had Adam, you had Eve, they were together, there's no divorce. So, well, what's divorce all about? Well, Moses allowed you to do it because of your hard hearts. But in the beginning it was not so. So, yeah, the ideal had been perverted by the time we get to the Israelites in the promised land. Okay, we'll pick up here. Surprise, surprise, the cycle completes itself again. If you look at verse 33, they went after Baal again. And we'll figure out what takes place. Okay, thank you for your time and your attention this morning. We'll be dismissed now for about 18 minutes before worship begins.